Alright, well, welcome to Dan's Crypto Adventures. Today I got a slightly different kind of video for you guys. It's actually not about crypto. It's actually about, at home I don't have cable, so I have FreeNAS running. So I got movies and TV shows on the FreeNAS system. And that's what we watch in the house. And I've had a bit of an issue with it overheating, really for years. And so I've got fans kind of zip tied in there, and it's just kind of a thrown together with whatever I had laying around, kind of a NAS. It's nothing fancy. It's a AMD A6 6400K, 16 gigs of RAM. So all it does is share movies and TV shows for us in the house. We don't have cable. Internally in the house we use Kodi to view everything, and then it does have a Plex server running as well, which if we're on vacation or out of town, or at a soccer game waiting for it to start or that kind of thing, I'll watch movies and TV shows on the Plex side of things. And so today I'm going to be moving that from the old case into the new case. And so that's what today's video is about. And so it's really not Dan's Crypto Adventures, more like Dan's NAS Adventures, I guess, today. So just to show you guys the case I've got. So here is the current NAS. Again, it's just a standard case, nothing fancy about it. It's got 4 6-terabyte drives in it, and it runs on FreeNAS, so it has 2 USBs. So there's no hard drive that the NAS is running on. And then we're going to be putting it into this case right here. This is the Fractal Design Define R6 case. And so I'm going to pop this side off here. And so here is the inside of this case that we'll be moving everything to. So I'm going to clear off my workspace here, get things ready to go, and first thing is to take everything out of the old case. So I'll try to film that as well so you guys can watch that. Alright, so now let's show you a little bit more in depth into what the old system looks like versus the new system. So I've gone ahead and turned off the FreeNAS server and moved it on here onto the table. So here we can see the inside of the box. A couple things to note. I've got this drive duct taped into place. A lot of these larger drives, the 6-terabyte drives, do not have the middle screw hole. And so this system is set up to where you put a screw in the front screw hole and a screw in the middle, but these drives don't have middle screw holes. So some of these, like this one, there's only one screw holding that drive into place. This one's literally duct taped into place. This one here, the little, the toolless system that this case comes with doesn't work, because you got one little tab that's supposed to go into the screw hole there on the drive, and then another one over here that's supposed to go in on the other side, but there isn't a screw hole. So I've had to put a screw right there into the drive. And again, that means there's only, I guess on the other side, this one has another screw holding it in place. So it's pretty poorly done. Case fans, I've had to wire in another case fan here. This case doesn't allow for any more, so I just had to stick it there to try to help get the temperatures down. And then also the drives are up here, the front case fan is down here. So you don't have really significant airflow across the drives. Most of the air is going to come in and go out the back here. And so I put this drive right here blowing air in, trying to go up to get in towards the drive to get some air movement in that area. And so hopefully with the new system case, you won't have that problem. Here's a size comparison. The new case is significantly larger. It's taller, wider, longer, in every sense of the word. It's just bigger. Now when we look at it, I'm going to turn around and look at the back side. So here are the drive cages. They can go anywhere in this span here, and we've got 2 case fans here in the front blowing air in. So we'll keep those there. I'll probably line up the drives right in front of these fans so that the air goes right across all 4 of the drives. On the back here we got a fan header, so we can plug all of our fans in here and control them from one spot. Of course, we all got our front panel connectors here. There's some options here to put our SSDs. I don't have one because this is a FreeNAS system, so it uses a USB drive. 2 of those, so I don't have an SSD. So you can mount the SSDs here, or you could put them on these little, or you can mount them directly to these the trays. Now, one thing I am going to do Now, one thing I am going to do is, right now this system comes with 3 fans, 2 blowing in the front, 1 blowing out in the back. I'm going to change those around a little bit. I'm going to make it so that there are 3 blowing in and then 1 blowing out. And I'm going to have 3 fans that are, the airflow is about double as the one that goes out. So I'm going to have the 3 fans in the front up there blowing in. I'm going to put a fan here in the basement in the front here that blows up and in. And then I'm going to have 1 fan up here that blows out. Now the volume of this fan that I'm going to put here is much larger than these existing fans. So I'm going to move this current fan to the bottom inside of here blowing in. Then I'm going to put a new fan up here that does significantly more airflow than these stock fans. Just so I'm trying to keep that about whatever volume comes in, I want about half of that going out, so that I maintain that positive airflow. So that's the intent. The other thing I'm going to do is, here is the front of the case, and it opens this way. Well, I'd rather it open the other way. And so it's supposedly a pretty simple change to change the hinges so that the door will open that way. So I'm going to make that change. Alright, so I've got a few things already straightened out with the case. Let me show you what those are. The first thing I want to show you is my NAS. I did get it back up and running just temporarily here on the table. So it is active, it's running, just so the kids and everybody has TV and everything while I'm doing this. So I want to show you all a couple of things. First off, I did reverse the swing on the case. For me, my application, that'll be a lot easier. And to show you, it's quite simple. There is, you can't see that, and I don't have, let me try light here real quick. So right there is a 1 screw on the top and then 1 screw on the bottom hinge. It's really easy to reverse that, quite simple to do. It only took me 2 or 3 minutes to do that. But then the big change I wanted to show you is on the inside of the case. So here is the back side of the case. Now if you'll notice, it comes with 2 fans that blow in, and then there was 1 fan that blew out right here. So those stock fans push about 68 cubic feet per minute. And this case manufacturer, they had 2 blowing in, 1 blowing out. So my simple logic may not be correct, but my logic here is that this case manufacturer recommends twice the amount of air coming in as going out. So I've tried to kind of maintain that balance. And so what I've done is I've left the 2 up front here. The one that was on here on the back, I moved down to the bottom. And so all 3 of these fans are going to be blowing in. So each of these is about 68 cubic feet per minute, which means total I've got about 204 cubic feet of air blowing into the case. I did kind of move the drives around how I think I'm going to have them. I've got 4 6 terabyte drives, so I think I'm going to put those right here. And these 4, these 2 I'm just going to leave up there empty. But these 4 are kind of centered on the fans, so it should get a significant amount of airflow coming across the fans. Filtered air, there's a filter at the front of this case, and then 1 fan here blowing up from the bottom that should bring in some additional air that's also filtered. And then I've put a new fan here in the back. So this is a 118 CFM fan. I know it's not exact, but with the numbers here, I've got 204 coming in and 118 coming out. So again, I'm roughly twice the amount of air coming into the case as is going out. So it should be a positive pressure on this case. So that was the thought process there. Again, maybe flawed, but that makes sense to me, so that's what I'm doing. And I have gone ahead and hooked up the wires. So this fan right here, the wire comes along here on the bottom. That's this wire right here, comes in up and plugs into the fan header. And then these 2 fans here, the wires go up and over and plug in right here. And then the front case fan comes through this grommet right there, around and plugs into the fan header. So I've already got those all hooked up. So now I just need to start moving the rest of the components over. Okay, so we are ready to start taking apart the current server. So here it is. So the first thing I'm going to take out is the power supply. Then I'll probably do the hard drives and then the main board. And the RAM and CPU fan are attached to it. I'll just leave those attached the whole time. So first thing is the power supply. So there's just 4 screws that hold that together. So we're going to swing that out. Creates a little bit of room. So now we can start unplugging everything that plugs in so we can get it out. There's the CPU power. This is a 3-pin header for a fan. So we can unhook that. Let's see here. A bunch of SATA connections. Let's get all them off and out of the way. And then the main 24 pin to the main board. Alright, so and there's a Molex connector here for some fans. So we are totally separated from that. Great. So here is my power supply. Now this is nothing fancy power supply. It actually came with this case. I bought this a few years ago, pretty cheap. So it's not modular at all. Everything is pre-wired into it. It's a 400 watt. I have no idea what the efficiency rating is. I'm sure it's not very high. And I think I see an issue with using this already. So let's slide over the new box. I might need to order a new power supply. So here is the new power supply. And I am going to have an issue. This won't work. So this will mount down here behind this plate, and then these wires will come up. I can already see this wire is not long enough, because this is going to need to come up the back side of this plate, come through here, and then plug into the main board. So that is not going to work. So I'm going to need to order a new power supply to run this. Yep, so let's do that. Okay, so the new power supply has come in, so I've kind of jumped back to where I was. So I've taken the side off. It's been running for a few days, but the new power supply came in, so I've taken the old one out just to get it out of the way, and so we can unplug everything from the board. And then now let's just start unhooking things. So I'd like to get as many wires out of the way as I can first. So these are all my SATA cables. Set those up there. Get a knife. Got this fan that I wired in here. Let's try to get it out. That is connected to the motherboard, so I need to take that off, get that pin off. Okay, good, so we got that out. Now, we'll not need this in the new server. The new case has fans, plenty of fans built into it, and I actually added one for what came with it. Alright, let's get the hard drives out. Now, these things are jury rigged in there. One of them is actually taped in. Some of them are screwed in, you know, not where it's supposed to be screwed in. I just kind of had to make it up as I went to kind of keep things stable. I don't know if you can see this on the video, but look how much this hard drive shakes right there. So that's one of the reasons I'm trying to avoid. I'm trying to get a good setup for this server, and again, something I can kind of grow into. Let's go and get the other panel off so I can have a better look at things. Okay, so let's get the hard drives out. All right. So I believe these are all the same hard drive. They're all Seagate. Yeah, they're all Seagate 6 terabyte drives. model ST6000DM001. I've had no problems with these. These have actually been fantastic. So let's keep taking them out. Yeah, see, the upper two hard drives only had one screw in each of those holding them into place. And this one I actually taped a piece of plastic on here so that when screwed in on this side, it actually sat on something so it supported on the other side. So I definitely needed a new case. Okay, there's the third one. Alright, so now we got all the hard drives out. A bunch of loose screws in there. Okay. So I'm probably gonna need to take this fan out in order to get the main board out. Let's just go ahead and take it out. Okay, so yeah, so there's the old fan. I do not intend to reuse that. I do like to save all the screws. So let's screw them into it a little bit just so I don't lose them. Okay, so we got that out. Now the only thing left in here that we want is the main board and the CPU and RAM. So we'll get a box to set this on. Take the main board out, I'll be able to set it right there. Okay, I think that's all the screws, so it should be able to come out. I'll just need to pull it out of the I/O shield on the back. Yep, so there it is. There's the main board. Got my dual USB. I use FreeNAS, and so I got dual USB on there. So good. Set that aside. Now I do also need the back plate as well, so I need to get that out. Okay, came out easier than I thought. Alright, so I'm going to put this back together. I'm not going to throw it away. I'll keep it. I'm going to put it back together and close it up and set it aside so I have an area to work, and then I'll start putting things in the new case. Okay, and so here is the new power supply. So this is the Seasonic Focus Plus Platinum 550 watt power supply. So first question is, why did I pick this new power supply? And the reason is, or really two reasons. First is 550 watts is definitely an overkill for this system. The current server has a 400 watt power supply in it, and that's more than enough as well. But this is a system that I want to grow into. And so I have 4 children, 2 of which are nearing college. And so I envision them going to college and logging into the Plex server and being able to stream movies to there and transcoding it in Plex. And so I need it to be able to handle that. So I envision having to upgrade to more hard drives. Right now I have 4. I'd like to go to 6 or 8 at some point. And then also a more powerful CPU so that it can do those transcoding, more transcoding streams to them. And so I want to be able to grow into a higher wattage power supply. And then the other reason is this has a 10-year warranty on it. And so going from a gold to the platinum, I think it was a $20 or $30 upgrade to do that. But again, to me, that's worth it. 10-year warranty to me says reliability. The manufacturer is comfortable that it's going to work well for years. And so I feel like this is a more reliable power supply that I can grow into over the next few years. And so this is what we're going to put in here into my new server case. So let's go ahead and get it out. Alright, so here it is. Let's get into this thing. If I can figure out how. On this side. So, manual, ties, all the connections, and the power supply itself. Alright, so I think for simplicity, I'm going to go ahead and make the connections, put all the power cords into the back of this before I mount it in the case. I think that'll probably be easier to get everything hooked up. And I can go ahead and probably mount the plate. This has a plate that mounts to the back of the power supply, and then you slide the plate and the power supply into position. So I'll probably go ahead and hook up all of the wires and that plate to this before I insert it in there. So let's do that. So it's got these thumb screws here on the back, pretty convenient. Pretty nice. Thumb screws. Oh, and they stay on. They don't fall off. It's pretty nice. I wonder why they put that on this, but not on the side panels. The panels that go on the sides here, they have the same thumb screw, but they don't stay on there. They fall off. That's interesting. And so the power supply came with some screws, and in the bag here. And so I'm going to mount this plate to this power supply using those screws. Figure out where. Okay, so I want it to blow down like that. There we go. So I want the fan pointing down. I want the fan here pulling air from under the case and then blowing it out the back. So my goal here is for the power supply to be basically separate from the air inside of the case. So it's going to pull up air underneath and then spit it out the back. So that's how I'm trying to orient this. There we go. Alright, so we got the plate mounted on there. Let's test it to make sure it fits right, and then we'll go through the plugs and see what we need on those. There's some rubber feet in here that the power supply sits on. It's pretty nice. Alright, so apparently I've mounted the plate on upside down. So I'm not sure if I can, but I'm going to try to switch it around. I don't think that's going to work though, looking at it. Well, then the holes don't line up. Let's put it back on there. Maybe, I don't know why that is. Let's try it again. Maybe if I don't tighten all these all the way, I can get the plate screwed in there, and then I can tighten all these up afterwards. Let's give that a try. Just get these started. Because there is a little bit of play in this, so maybe I just didn't have it situated right the first time. So all those are a little loose, so the plate can move around a little bit. Now let's try to get in there. So again, I want the fan facing down. Yep. Now the thumb screws fit in there. Okay. Let's go ahead and tighten the plate all the way to the power supply, and then we'll take it out and put the wires in. Alright, let's take a look at that. So here's a close-up of the back. And then here is what it looks like from the side. And I'm going to get some lights to put on this. Alright, so hopefully that is a little better. Hopefully you can see those a little bit. It's all black, so it's probably hard to see. And here's the power supply inside. You can't see it, but right under there's some little feet, the rubber feet that come up. So let's go ahead and take this back out, and then we will hook in the wires. So now I can just use the thumb screws to get it off. Alright, so now we got it out. Now we got to figure out what wires we need. Okay. The CPU, we're definitely going to need that. 24-pin main board, definitely going to need that. Here are the SATA power. This has got 1, 2, 3, 4 on there. That would actually work. And then I need another SATA connection for the fans. This CPU, this case has a fan header here on the back, and it's got a SATA power for it, and that will power all of the fans in the case. So I believe that is all that I need. Got some 6+2 pins here. Looks like 2 of those for video cards. I don't have any of those, so I don't need that. And here are some. This has 3 Molex connectors on this. I don't think I have anything that needs that, so let's set that aside. It's also got a Molex to 4-pin connector here, and I don't need that. So let's go ahead and put all of these on, and then we'll slide the power supply into place. Alright, okay, so here is the first cable. This is the SATA, so we're going to plug that in. Now on this, so these are SATA connections. And then the other end of this is a 6-pin. And if you look on the back of the power supply, it says peripheral, IDE, SATA, Molex. And these are all 6-pin connectors. On the other side is a CPU and PCI, and those are all 8-pin. So there's only one place that this can go in, and that's the peripheral, IDE, SATA, Molex connection. So we're going to stick it in those. Doesn't matter which one, I don't think. So we got that plugged in. Okay, so here is the 24-pin connector. Yeah, it's actually 20 plus 2. So this here actually comes apart. I'm not sure exactly how to get it apart, but it does come apart so that you can do, some older motherboards only have 20 pin. This one has 24. So the other end has these 2 connection here. And if you look on the back of the power supply, you've got MB motherboard. So you've got the larger one, the smaller one. Look at this, a larger side and then smaller side. So we just need to plug those in. Plug it in there till it clicks. So here we go. So now we got that plugged in. Now I'm not really sure why. Like the motherboard and the CPU cords are sleeved, and then all the other ones are not. So it's kind of strange, but oh well. Okay, so now this is the CPU. So we've got it's a 4+4, and then on the other end there's an 8-pin that connects into the power supply. It also says PSU on the bottom, so power supply unit. And then if we look on the back of the main board, CPU, PCI, those are all the same. There's a bunch of those. Those are all 8-pin connectors, so I don't think it matters which one. Plug it into one of those. So you hear a click. Then our last one. This is 4 SATA connections. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes. And I got 4 hard drives, so I'm hoping I can use just this to power all 4 hard drives. I know if you're doing a mining rig, you only want to use 2 of the SATA connections, but for a hard drive, I'm going to give it a try and see what happens. So again, on the back side of this, there is a 6-pin connector. So you look on the back of here, just plug it in the only place that it can. Great, so those are all the connectors we need for this server here. So we're going to feed these through here. Just kind of pull them out of the way and kind of try to get do your best to get this through here. Okay, now we go ahead and attach it with these thumb screws. Use a screwdriver on that one. I couldn't. It was hard to get it without the screwdriver. But we got that mounted in. We got all of our power cables running out here. The case, all the connections for the case are kind of down in this area as well. So once we get our motherboard mounted, we can run all of these cables through these sleeves here and make the connections where we need to on the main board. So I think we're ready to install the main board. So I'll probably go ahead and tuck this up in here just temporarily so that we can lay the case on its back to install the main board. So everything is tucked in there, it's all flat, so now we can lay it down. Well, I needed that anyway. That's all the nuts for all the connections, so we can lay it down like so. And now we've got good access for installing the main board. I'll need to adjust the camera, but now we can install the main board. Okay, so this is a micro ATX motherboard, and so you probably cannot see it in the video, but right where my light is shining, it says ATX A, micro ATX M, mini ATX I. So this motherboard is a micro ATX, so I want a standoff to be at all of the M's, and so I need to go around and do that. And so far they look to be pretty good. Don't need that one. There's a couple here in the middle that I do not need. I got to move these three down here. Again, you can see it in the video. These three right here I need to move up to there and there and then there. So I got to adjust those. So let's do that. Okay, so I got these standoffs moved. So here they are in their new locations. So I've got them all set up. So now I need to install the back plate, which is this guy right here. Alright, great. So we got that installed. Now we can set in the main board, sticking it through the back plate. Actually, I'm going to take off these USB. I got some USB drives in here. This runs FreeNAS, so I've got 2 USB sticks. I'm going to take those out, so it's easier to get in the shield in the back. Okay. And again, you might not be able to see it on the video, but right there, built into the case, there's a little peg that sticks up through one of the holes, and so that kind of holds it in place. So I've not screwed anything down, but that will hold it in place while I screw everything else down. So perfect. So now I'm going to go to the box that came with the case. And so if you look on the back here, it's got a standoff tool and some other things, but I need the motherboard screws. So here are the mainboard screws. So I'm going to need those. Now make sure you don't drop these on anything. If you do drop it in there, you got to make sure you get it out, because it will cause an issue later on. Now it's helpful if you have a screwdriver with a magnetic tip. I do not. Now it is kind of interesting. Some of the screw holes in my motherboard do not line up with anything on the case. So right here, this one and this standoff are both marked as micro ATX, but my main board doesn't reach those. So I've got a screw hole here and here that do not have anything below it. So I'm just going to screw in what I can and call it a day. Okay, so that is all of the mounting points, and it is secure. It's in there pretty well, and it's lined up with the back plates. I think we're ready to go on to the next step. Okay, for the next step, I'm going to install the hard drives into the trays. So I have 4 hard drives. So I'm going to take out these 4 trays. I'm going to move these rubber mounts here so it kind of spreads them out a little bit. That way I've got 4 screw holes, and then each of the screws goes through one of these rubber mounts, just to help keep everything a little bit more quiet, a little bit of vibration resistance. And so you got to locate the screws that come with the case for this. And just screw them on. Alright, so we got all 4 drives mounted to the trays. Let's go ahead and stick them back in. And again, my goal here is to put, my thinking is to put all 4 drives kind of centered between the 2 fans, just to help run plenty of air across them. Great, so we got those mounted. So I think we're ready to start making all the power connections. We'll do those first, and then we'll move on to the SATA cables. Actually, let's go ahead and do the front panel connections. So let's get all of them open here. So we got all of our on-off lights, all that good stuff. USB 2.0, HD audio, and USB 3.0. Okay, so I've gone ahead, I got my laptop out so I could figure out where to plug in all the front panel connections, because I have no idea where the manual is. But luckily I was able to find the manual online and download it. So I've got everything plugged in. I'll show you that real quick. I forgot to turn the camera on when I was doing it, but here's HD audio, USB 3.0, USB 2.0, and all the front panel, the power on, LED, all that kind of stuff is right there. So now we are ready to start doing the power to the main board. So let's start. Let's get my laptop out of the way, and we'll start running our power through. So we want to try to put wires through kind of where we're going to need it. So the 24 pin, and we want to come through right there so it can go straight into it. The CPU fan is up here, so we'd want to come in right here. So we can go directly to that. We want the shortest run possible on that side, just to help with airflow. And so down here at the bottom, so I'm going to get all these cables out. Since right now they're just kind of crammed in there, so they're out of the way a little bit. Okay, so we got all of those out. So that's the 24 pin. So let's run that. Where did that go? It went right through there. So we're just going to hang it in there. And then the CPU. Trying to get these organized a little better so it's a little bit easier to do my cable management when I'm done. So that can go there, kind of go up this way. That's going to go right through there. Might not be a good way to hide that one, but maybe something like that. Okay, let's go ahead and make those connections, and then we'll spin it back around and do a few more. Alright, so here's our 24 pin, and there's a little notch right here, and there's a little tab that locks in, and on one side of the 24 pin on the board there's a little latch that connects to. So we've got to get this spun around and push it in there. Okay, I didn't hear a click, but it's definitely all the way in. And then we've got our CPU header up here, CPU fan up here, or CPU power up here. Now this power supply comes with 4+4, but this motherboard only needs 4 pin. Okay, so excess wire, I kind of want to push it back through so it's not onto this side. And that's just about everything that plugs in on this side except the SATA. Okay, so let's go ahead and plug in the SATA data cables onto the board and fish them through to the back. Okay, so I think that's everything we've got to do on this side. Now we just got to turn it around, hook up power to the hard drives, and the data to the hard drives, and that's going to be about it. Oh, I need to hook up the power for the fan, the case fans as well. So let's go ahead and do that. Alright, so here are all of my SATA connectors, data connectors for the hard drive. So I got one really short one, so that's got to go to the bottom one. And it does fit. It does have a little bit of, barely, but it does fit. Let's go ahead and connect all of these. Okay, now we can hook up our power for all of these drives. Okay, then I think the only thing remaining is the power for the case fans. Alright, so I think that is everything. I think it's all hooked up, so I think I need to grab a monitor, hook it up to it, plug a power cord into it, and turn it on and see what happens. Okay, so I've got the monitor hooked up, I've got the computer plugged into the monitor and the power. Right now the switch on the power supply itself is turned off. I think I have this main board set up to where if it loses power and it comes back on, it automatically goes back to on. So I think when I turn on the power switch on the power supply, it will turn on. So let's see what happens. And it did. At least all the fans started going. So there's the main board display. Looks like it sees the NAS. I don't have a keyboard, so I can't hit enter, so we'll just have to wait for it to time out. Oh, it wasn't too bad. Okay, so the computer, the server has booted up. I did have to restart it once. It got up and said it couldn't connect to the internet, and so I forgot when I was turning on the first time, so I had to run and plug in the Ethernet cable. And so I don't know if it didn't get plugged in time or what, but I just restarted it and it worked fine. So it is up and running right now. I've got my laptop. I can access the network, so it's definitely up. I see it when I look at the router. The IP is correct, so it's all good there. One little oddity, I guess, is that this right here is the screen for FreeNAS, and there's actually more text that's supposed to be over here. So I'm not really sure what's doing that. I've never had it do that before. So, oh well. So a couple things about this case I did want to talk about. Overall, I really liked it. I wish it came with more trays. It comes with 6 trays. I wish it came with more. I'm guessing you can order those, through the company's website or something to get additional. So it's odd how it has room for 11 bays, but it only comes with 6 trays. And then the other thing is, I'm going to grab the camera to show you a little bit better. So I did have this grommet right here. When I was turning it on, just kind of sitting here waiting, I realized that this was all the way off and falling through. And I guess just the act of putting the cables through it kind of pulled it off. So I thought that was kind of odd. And then the other thing is this cable right here. It runs from this back corner here all the way to over here, but there's a cutout right there. But for some reason there's not a grommet on that one. All the other holes in the case that go to the back of the computer have a grommet, except for that one. Which would be great if this cord could just go straight there. I think that'd be a lot easier. But other than that, I really like the case. It's fantastic. It's got great airflow. So I just need to do a little bit of work on the back side with the wire management, and then I can put the covers back on. But this is a server. It sits in my basement. I didn't even get the model that has the glass here because I don't care. It sits in the basement and I just want it to run all the time. I don't really care what it looks like. I do kind of like having the wires nice and neat on the front here just to help with airflow and that kind of thing. But beyond that, it doesn't really bother me if it doesn't look perfect. So anyway, I'm going to do a little bit on the back just so things don't move around, just secure them in place. Then I'll put the covers on, and then I'll leave this server here on the table probably for a few days just to make sure everything's running good with it. And then I'll put it back at its permanent kind of location. So thanks for watching Dan's Crypto Adventures. I hope you guys liked it. If I remember, I'll put a link to this case in the description. Again, overall, been very happy with it. There are other models. You can get different colors. This is the black. You can get other colors. You can get glass panels on the sides if you'd like. So there's lots of options for this case. It's done. I think it does really well. So very happy with it. So thank you for watching. Please hit subscribe and like down below. I'd appreciate it. Thanks.